We are exploring what it means to live wholeheartedly in a divided world. In this new beginning, we are going to examine how we use our God-given time, treasure, and talent. Last week, Pastor Kurt kicked us off with a challenge to take an audit of our time. It is our most valuable, non-renewable resource. Now, before I get started today, I have a confession to make. I am recovering from an addiction. It's not drugs or alcohol or gambling or sex or screens, although I've had my challenges with those things in the past. This is something that plagues students and stay-at-home parents and even seniors. It's highly celebrated and very socially acceptable. I am a recovering workaholic. We laugh, but it's a real thing. How do the good things that God gave us, such as wine, making love, and work, become disoriented and disordered? The story of creation in Genesis shows us how God created everything good and invited man and woman to cultivate and multiply. Work was orderly and creative and fulfilling. Genesis 2 says that the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array, and by the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work, and God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating he had done. The Almighty God of the universe rested. Think about that. Why did God rest? He's infinite. He's omnipotent. He did so that we would have a model of a healthy rhythm of work and rest and know how to bless time and make it holy. The word Sabbath means to stop. What likely happens if we blow through stop signs is we crash. We are given time, treasure, and talent to steward and enjoy. And like tithing 10% of our income to care for our community and not be consumed by greed, God models budgeting 1/7 of our time for rest and worship. But where did we go wrong? Adam and Eve's disobedience has tainted work for all of mankind. Work became the toil of thorns and thistles, and labor became painful and burdensome. Yet even when work feels like a chore, it can easily become an idol, a form of temporary escape. But idols make promises that they cannot deliver, luring us to consume more and more and more. When God's people wound up in exile as slaves to the rulers of the day, he gave them the 10 Commandments to remind his people of their identity. He starts by reminding them that he is God and they are not. We are to have no idols, including money and work. And we are not to use the Lord's name in vain, which we see rulers do for their own gain. The fourth commandment draws us back to the original 6-7 rhythm. I had to go there, thank you. My son says that's like we're over that, but there you go. You're welcome. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animal, nor any foreigner residing in your town. For 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day, and therefore the Lord blesses the Sabbath day and made it holy. This is not a day for you and your kids to do chores and run errands. You may think that you don't have servants or there aren't any foreigners working in our town, but who do you think works the hours that nobody wants to work? The poor and the oppressed. We commend businesses that are closed on Sundays, such as Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby, but we just go to the next fast food restaurant and we continue shopping online. With refrigeration and crock pots, do we have any excuse to grocery shop or meal prep on the Sabbath? The wise words of Adele Calhoun are sobering. If you are not resting, you are a slave to something. What are you a slave to? Is it your work, your kids' sports, your phone? Something that is holy is set apart for God. In the wilderness, God provided food daily and a double portion on the sixth day for his people to resist, rest, and worship on the Sabbath. This food would spoil if they tried to eat it on the days that it was not provided for. And this is why we are shown how to pray, give us this day our daily bread. We see Sabbath mentioned again in Exodus. You must observe my Sabbath. This will be a sign to you between me and you for the generations to come, so that you may know that I am the Lord who makes you holy. Observe the Sabbath because it is holy to you. On the seventh day, he rested and was refreshed. In Leviticus, he says there are 6 days when you may work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath rest and a day of sacred assembly. You are not to do any work wherever you live. The Sabbath is to the Lord. In Deuteronomy, he says, remember, you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with his mighty hand and his outstretched arms. Therefore, the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. We view laws as limitations rather than a gift of covering. On the Sabbath day, we gather and we remember and we are refreshed. The prophet Isaiah says, if you keep your feet from breaking the Sabbath and from doing as you please on my holy day, if you call the Sabbath a delight and the Lord's holy day honorable, if you honor it by not going your own way and doing as you please or speaking idle words, then you will find joy in the Lord, and it will cause you to ride in triumph on the heights of the land and feast on the inheritance of your father Jacob. I don't know about you, but I long for more delight and joy and feasts. The Lord knows what's best for us, yet we resist. There may be a few reasons. Perhaps we have a false identity. We think we are the gods of our own life. Our identity is in this false sense of control. We think we are what we do, and that our identity is in work alone, not as a dependent, loved child of God. Fear. We don't trust that working 6 days is enough, and we fear failing. We don't trust that God will provide and protect us when we rest. And discontent. We are ungrateful and restless for more than we need. We covet and try to one-up our neighbors. In Sacred Rhythms, Ruth Haley Barton says, because we do not rest, we lose our way. We miss direction, nourishment, quiet, and joy. We are poisoned by the hypnotic belief that good things only come from unceasing determination and tireless effort. We can never truly rest. How much of our loneliness, depression, and anxiety could be avoided if we regularly gathered and rested together and remembered that we have a good God? The psalmist says, Lord, you are my portion and my cup. You make my lot secure. The boundary lines have fallen in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance. I will praise the Lord who counsels me. Even at night, my heart instructs me. I will keep my eyes on the Lord, and with him at my right hand, I will not be shaken. I had to learn this the hard way. When I was 2 years into business ownership and just had my third son in 4 years, I started having panic attacks. This led to counseling and medication and learning healthy rhythms. Sabbath seemed impossible in this season with a new business and babies. And it's funny how God can speak to us. I remember looking at my car dashboard and the gas tank was on E and the check engine light was on. And I thought, that is exactly how I feel. I am running on fumes and there is maintenance required. Our tanks need more than we think. We are not machines. Work is to empty ourselves in a good way, but rest is required to refill. I was unaware of the stages of burnout and how crucial the practice of Sabbath is. There are 4 stages of burnout according to Leader Breakthrough. Stage 1 is exhaustion and depletion and loss of boundaries. This adrenaline typically becomes one's main source of energy. And our typical response is no acknowledgement. We just maintain our current levels of stress and continue to allow for increasing amounts of activity. Stage 2 is physical symptoms. Our adrenaline becomes further depleted. Our physical symptoms manifest in fatigue, irritability, lack of sleep, nervous habits. One's results are diminished. Our typical response is we are in denial of the situation. We make excuses and justifications, and we begin to compromise our standards for our values by our behavior. Stage 3 is a frequency of sickness and depression. Adrenaline is exhausted, symptoms increase, loss of sleep, the inability to rest, skin irritations, and complete fatigue. Our typical response is extreme denial and lying to ourselves and others, and we begin to drop our responsibilities and commitments and even our involvements in our close relationships. And stage 4, that we would typically call burnout, is that physical and emotional shutdown. We hide, and flight can be our response. Our adrenaline is completely depleted. Our typical response is disengagement, a complete state of physical depletion and an inability to respond to others and offer contribution. This requires extended periods of rest and recovery and help from others. Been there. Do you suffer from more physical illness lately? Are you tired and depressed most of the time? Do you have less and less enjoyment in life? You may feel like you're working harder and harder, but have no real accomplishment or satisfaction. You easily forget appointments and deadlines. You feel disoriented at the end of your workday. You feel an increased frustration or anger on the job or at school. You have a short temper, and you feel disappointment in others. You have an increased difficulty relating to people at work, home, or at school, and you've begun to isolate yourself from other people. If we do not allow for the rhythm of rest in our overly busy lives, illness will become our Sabbath. Every season of life can be overwhelming. If you are a student, your schoolwork and your extracurricular activities can be overwhelming. If you're a young adult, working and establishing your life can be all-consuming. If you are a new parent, sleep or the lack of sleep and time alone with God it could make you feel like you're drowning. And if you're retired, caring for your own health and aging parents can take its toll on you. Sabbath is how God sustains us in these beautiful yet sometimes brutal seasons. Now, we can be tempted when doing good to succumb to self-harm. There is a pervasive form of contemporary violence, activism, and overwork. To allow oneself to be carried away by the multitude of conflicting concerns and to surrender to too many demands and to commit oneself to too many projects and to want to help everyone and everything is to succumb to violence. The frenzy of activism neutralizes our work for peace, and it destroys the fullness of our own work. When we are burning the candle at both ends, are we doing anything well? We are to imitate God, but remember that we are not Him. The work we do is good, but we are not as important as we think. In the good news message of Matthew, Jesus asks, "Are you tired, worn out, burnt out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I will show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you will learn to live freely and lightly." Again, the unforced rhythms of grace teach us to live freely and lightly. Now, we can get overly idealistic about the Sabbath, or even rigid, as the religious Pharisees did in Jesus' day. They love to enforce strict rules on the Sabbath while missing the point of receiving God's grace. Jesus asked a paralytic man, "Do you want to get well?" And rather than rejoicing, the Pharisees persecuted Jesus. The surface issue was that he was healing on the Sabbath, but the real issue was that Jesus claimed to be God. He said to them, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is the Lord, even on the Sabbath." Jesus gathered with God's people, prayed and healed, and dined on the Sabbath. On the Sabbath, there are prayers to be prayed, songs to be sung, and our God to be worshiped. There are still diapers to be changed and meals to be served and people to see as we rest. This is a day we give to God and others as holy. This is not private or self-indulgent, but communal. We are different on the Sabbath. We are more present and available. We don't have to practice Sabbath. We get to. We don't have to gather with the church. We get to. This is a gift to gather and worship and rest together. Observing the Sabbath in the synagogue was Jesus' custom, and in Luke, he quotes the prophet Isaiah by saying, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to have set the oppressed free, and to proclaim a year of the Lord's favor." The Jewish tradition of Shabbat was part of their identity. Beginning at sundown on Friday to sundown Saturday, they lit candles signaling ceasing and celebrating. On Shabbat, time does not exist, and they devote themselves to revering God and resisting toil. Christians shifted this day to Sunday as a day to commemorate Jesus' resurrection. But do we acknowledge this with a sanctuary in time? Does it matter what day of the week we practice Sabbath? Does it have to be a whole day? This is debated. In the 300s, the Roman Emperor Constantine prohibited labor on Sundays. And this concept surfaced again in America in the 1600s when blue laws were put into effect, prohibiting work, shopping, buying alcohol, and gambling. These laws were an attempt to prevent worker exploitation and grant freedom to worship. There are currently federal laws protecting the right to worship against discrimination. Some of you may remember when everything was closed on Sundays and most people went to church. The ability to compare ourselves to our neighbors and consume is now at our fingertips 24/7 on our devices. The point is having a regular weekly communal rhythm. I am so grateful for healthcare and public safety workers who are available to us 7 days a week, but you can request time off to gather with the church and rest. Maybe you take a half day. Maybe you take the other half on another day. Do what works for you and your family. Start where you are and just do what you can. In the Apostle Paul's letter to the Romans, he says, one person considers one day more sacred than the other, and another considers every day alike. Each of them should be fully convinced in their own mind. Whoever regards one day as special does so to the Lord and gives thanks to God. Our staff has been discussing our feelings around time management. And for some, planning ahead makes them feel a little anxious. And for others, planning ahead relieves anxiety. These two types of people usually marry each other. It's certainly true in my home. You will have to find a happy medium of intentionally setting aside a day and leaving room for spontaneity. This is a space where you are free to be neighborly. We all only have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just like we budget our finances to steward the resources God blessed us with, we are to schedule our time and use it in ways that glorify God. Sabbath takes preparation. 6 days we work to make Sabbath possible. Living 24/6 gives us more time and makes us more efficient. For our family, Saturday is a housework day. We clean house, we put away laundry, we shop and prepare meals, we answer emails and texts, and we pack lunches for Monday. On Sunday, we gather with the church, we use paper plates so that there's no dishes, and we limit technology other than enjoying sports and movies and games. Things will look different in different seasons, but it's worth making it work. Ask for ideas and help. In The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, Pastor John Mark Calmer says, Sabbath is an expression of faith. Faith that there is a creator and he is good. We are his creation and this is his world. We live under his roof, drink his water, eat his food, and breathe his oxygen. So on the Sabbath, we don't just take a day off of work. We take a day off from toil. We give him all of our fear and anxiety and stress and worry. We let go. We stop ruling and subduing, and we just be. We remember our place in the universe so that we never forget that there is a God and I am not him. Sabbath boils down to these few things: stop, rest, delight, and worship. Stop. Work is good and I enjoy it, so it can be hard to stop. But anything we consider work needs to stop for a day. There is power in unplugging. Technology can keep us in bondage. Try a Sabbath tech lockbox or silencing your phone. Take a hard restart. Refrain from buying and selling. Honor the limits of your humanity. We all have finite time, bodily, and relational capacities. God is the one that can be all things to all people. God is the one who can be in two places at once. God is the one who never sleeps. I am not. Now, rest is easier said than done, but once you've stopped, don't worry. Light a candle. Let each of you speak about the things that are left to do. And as the candle burns down, allow the cares of the world to melt away. Do not be anxious about tomorrow, said Jesus. The worries of today are sufficient for today. Whatever remains to be done, for now, let it be. It will not get done tonight. In Sabbath time, we take our hand off the plow and allow God and the earth to care for what is needed. Let it be. The beautiful poem, The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry, was inspired by God's order and call not to worry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's life may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests. In his beauty on the water, the great heron feeds. I come to the peace of wild things, who do not tax their life with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free. I'll admit, I've learned how to stop, but getting my mind off of things is still a struggle. What helps me shift my focus is delight. Pastor Eugene Peterson says that Sabbath is a day for prayer and play. It's a day to celebrate and roll down hills and splash in water, to spread paint on paper or walls or each other, to make love and wrestle with our children. Watch TV, take a nap, go for a walk, take a bath, sip wine, eat dessert, spend part of the day with people and part of the day in quiet. This will spark more creativity and vocational joy. And last but not least, worship. Gather with the church. Get out a pen and paper and journal reflections and gratitude and prayer. Read a printed Bible or a book and listen to praise music. God blesses this and calls it holy. The enemy of our soul wants to rule us with guilt for resting. Ruth Haley Barton shares a disclaimer that the Sabbath keeping discipline will mess with you. Listening to God and our longings can stir things up in us as we typically suppress it with the drug of busyness. The National Library of Medicine observed celebrating Sabbath as a holistic health practice and the transformative power of a sanctuary in time. Sabbath keeping enhances self-awareness, improves self-care, enriches relationships, develops our spirituality, and positively affects the rest of our week. What rest do you long for? Where do you resist? Are you willing to live within your limits? What activities do you need to refuse to engage in so that it is truly a day of rest and worship and delight? And what brings you delight? How will you incorporate this? We have to practice pausing and think, I know I can make it because Sabbath is coming. And I can face my life now because I have rested. It is a sacred gift from God that we overlook. Sabbath is a mystery found in discipline and grace. We put it on the calendar and pray that God will help us honor it and keep it holy. This is a countercultural resistance in practicing trust and saying no more. This is a defiance against consumerism and the disparities of our time. And this is a rebellion against the rat race. There remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from their works, just as God did from his. Let us therefore make every effort to enter this rest so that no one will perish by following their example of disobedience. Rest. What a gift. Let's stop overdosing on overcommitment. Let's confess and confront this self-violence. Let's wean ourselves off of achievement and adrenaline and the affirmation of others. Let's stop the mindless haste. Before you are anything else, you are a child of God who is loved and cared for. In closing, as the band returns, I leave you with this. A modern version of Psalm 23. The Lord is my pace setter, I shall not rush. He makes me stop and rest for quiet intervals. He provides me with images of stillness, which restore my serenity. He leads me in the way of efficiency. Through calmness of mind, his guidance is peace. Even though I have a great many things to accomplish this day, I will not fret. For his presence is here. His timelessness, his all important, will keep me in balance. He prepares refreshment and renewal. In the midst of my activity, by anointing my head with the oil of tranquility, my cup of joyous energy overflows. Surely harmony and effectiveness will be the fruit of my hours, and I shall walk in the pace of the Lord, and I will dwell in his house forever.